When a black man moves into a quiet suburban neighborhood, the HOA president and notorious Karen immediately targets him, demanding he leave. But her self-righteous crusade unravels when he reveals a truth that leaves the entire neighborhood stunned. He owns the very house she lives in, and her eviction notice is coming next. It all began on a sunny Monday morning, the kind of morning where the breeze is light, the sky clear, and the sidewalks freshly swept by homeowners with nothing better to do. In Oak Ridge Estates, a gated suburban community nestled 20 minutes outside Atlanta, appearances mattered more than kindness. The lawns were regulation length, the mailboxes painted HOA approved, shades of beige, and neighbors spoke more behind backs than two faces. And reigning over it all with a clipboard and a condescending smile was Karen Whitmore, president of the Oak Ridge Homeowners Association. Karen saw herself as the gatekeeper of grace, the enforcer of suburban sanctity. Her clipboard was her sword, her smile, a shield that masked a heart hardened by entitlement. She thrived on rules, regulations, and the illusion of control. When house number 22 on Elderberry Lane went up for sale, she already had plans for its buyer, preferably a retired, coupled with no pets, no kids, and a reverence for her authority. So when a sleek black Range Rover rolled up the cul-de-sac, Karen's carefully manicured world began to tremble. Out stepped a tall, sharply dressed black man, early 30s, composed, confident, and clearly affluent. He wore success on his sleeve, his Rolex catching the sunlight as he retrieved a key and opened the front door to number 22 like he owned the place. Because, as Karen would soon find out, he did. His name was Andre Mitchell, tech entrepreneur, investor, and to Karen's chagrin, the new legal owner of a home she believed belonged to their kind of people. Within hours, she crossed the street like a general marching to war. "Excuse me?" she called out, her voice sharp enough to clip hedges. Andre turned with a relaxed smile. "Yes, I'm Karen Whitmore. I run the HOA here. You can't just move in without clearance." From the board, Andre blinked. "Clearance?" "Yes," she said firmly. "There's a vetting process for new homeowners. This community has standards." Andre nodded slowly. "Well, I bought the house outright, in cash. No mortgage. Closed last week. Here's the deed." He showed her the document on his phone. Zooming in on his name at the bottom, Karen's face tightened. "That can't be. We never approved." "Because I didn't need your approval," he replied calmly. "It's not a cupo. This is private property." That evening, Karen summoned the HOA board for an emergency meeting. Over iced teas and irritation, she outlined her plan. Citation after citation, building a case for non-compliance until the neighborhood forced him out. The board, mostly disinterested retirees and docile suburbanites, nodded in nervous agreement. The next morning, Andre received his first violation: garage door left open more than 15 minutes. Then came a warning for improper trash bin placement, followed by a notice for an unauthorized outdoor decoration, a small Juneteenth flag waving from his porch. Andre responded each time with detailed rebuttals, legalese laced with wit. He even offered to meet with Karen to clarify the HOA bylaws. She declined. Instead, she doubled down. She stood on his lawn with a tape measure. She took photos of his guests. She filed noise complaints for quiet backyard conversations. But Andre didn't flinch. He smiled, waved, and documented everything. When Karen blocked a moving truck delivering Andre's new furniture, claiming it was too large and unsightly, he called the HOA attorney. The attorney, as it turned out, worked for Andre's firm. Karen's crusade was unraveling, but she didn't stop. She began digging into Andre's past, searching for scandal, anything to discredit him. Instead, she found 30 under 30, Harvard MBA, philanthropy projects, and a history of real estate investments. She found that not only did he own number 22, but several rental homes across Atlanta, including one at 17 Elderberry Lane, her own address. At first she dismissed it as coincidence, but the county records didn't lie. Andre had purchased her property 6 months ago through a holding company. She had been paying rent on a lease set to expire in 30 days with no clue her new enemy was her landlord. The next day, Andre walked up her driveway with a polite knock. "Karen," he said warmly, "we need to talk about your lease renewal." She stammered, turning pale. "What do you mean?" "I own this house," he said simply. "I've decided not to renew. You'll need to vacate by the end of the month." Her knees buckled. "You can't do that. I think you'll find I can," he said, handing her the notice. "Maybe next time, greet your neighbors before trying to evict them." The neighborhood watched in stunned silence as Karen packed her boxers, the clipboard nowhere in sight. Karen couldn't sleep. The realization that Andre owned her home gnawed at her like termites in the foundation. For years, she had ruled Oak Ridge Estates with thin smiles and iron-fisted bylaws, but now she was reduced to Googling tenants, rights at 3 a.m. in the dark. The HOA board didn't return her calls. The neighbors who once obeyed her directives now waved at Andre like he was a celebrity, and in many ways, he was. Charismatic, successful, and unbothered by the pettiness that had defined her life, Andre was becoming the neighborhood's favorite figure. His mere presence highlighted everything Karen wasn't: graceful, respected, kind. She found herself obsessively watching him from behind her curtains. Every time he hosted friends or laughed on his porch, she felt the sting of irrelevance. So she tried one last desperate strategy: smear him. She posted in the local Facebook group, warning residents about outside investors changing the culture of Oak Ridge. She hinted that Andre's background didn't match the neighborhood. The post backfired spectacularly. Residents flooded the comments with praise for Andre, thanking him for the free Wi-Fi he installed in the park, the block party he sponsored, and the scholarships he launched for local teens. Karen watched her influence dissolve in real time, but her pride wouldn't let go. She called the local paper, hoping to tip off a scandal. Nothing. She filed noise complaints, zoning disputes, even called the IRS hotline anonymously. Every effort bounced back. Andre's record was clean, his generosity was real, and worse, he knew what she was doing and never once retaliated. That infuriated her most of all. One day, she confronted him at his mailbox. "Why are you doing this?" she hissed. "Doing what?" he asked calmly. "Taking everything from me." He tilted his head. "You mean living in my house and owning yours?" She turned red. "You think you're better than me?" Andre didn't answer. He just looked at her, calm, tired, disappointed. "You could have just welcomed me," he said softly. "But you chose war." Karen's voice cracked. "You don't belong here." Andre sighed. "Karen, I own here." She broke down then. Right on the sidewalk. Her empire had crumbled, not because of force, but because the very foundation she built it on, prejudice, pride, control, was hollow. The eviction was set in motion. 30 days. Andre offered her a relocation package money to help her move. She refused. She packed slowly, bitterly, telling anyone who would listen that she was the victim, but no one listened anymore. The day she drove away, Andre was on his porch, watering flowers. He looked up, met her eyes, and nodded. No smugness, no gloating, just a quiet goodbye. Karen didn't nod back, but something in her eyes, shame, perhaps, lingered. For the first time in years, she had nothing to govern, no one to control. She was just another person leaving a place she never truly owned. Andre, meanwhile, continued building something better, a community where respect was earned, not demanded. And Oak Ridge began to change, one house at a time. A year had passed since Karen left Oak Ridge Estates. Her old house had been transformed: fresh paint, solar panels, and a vibrant front garden blooming with native flowers. But more than the landscaping, it was the energy that had shifted. Andre wasn't just a resident anymore. He was a leader, a pillar. He hosted town halls on his lawn, invited teens to tech workshops in his garage turned lab, and created a community newsletter written by the neighborhood kids. What had once been an exclusive, patrolled enclave had become a hub of inclusion and creativity. Families who once kept to themselves now hosted block potlucks. Formerly silent neighbors shared ideas, created community gardens, and welcomed newcomers with baskets instead of citations. Andre's presence had cracked open the foundation Karen built, and, in its place, something stronger had taken root. Despite it all, he never boasted. He still watered his flowers at 7 a.m. sharp, waved to every jogger, and remembered birthdays. And when the local news did a feature on the most transformed neighborhood in Georgia, Andre politely redirected the spotlight to the residents. "It wasn't me," he said. "It was all of us deciding that everyone belongs." One chilly October afternoon, a silver sedan pulled up quietly on Elderberry Lane. An older woman stepped out, wrinkled from stress, dressed in clothes a little plainer than before. It was Karen. She walked the block slowly, watching kids ride bikes where she once scolded them, and noticing how much more beautiful the neighborhood looked when joy, not judgment, led. She paused outside her old home, now a vibrant, welcoming space with laughter inside. She didn't knock, she didn't linger, but she looked wistfully at the porch, as if realizing the cost of pride. Andre, who was across the street planting daffodil bulbs, spotted her. He didn't wave, but he stood tall, gave a respectful nod, and returned to the soil. That was enough. She left without a word, her footsteps lighter than they had been in years. Back in the house, Andre's phone buzzed. Another email, this one from a neighborhood in South Carolina, asking if he'd help them turn their community around. He smiled, closed the laptop, and looked around. Oak Ridge wasn't just home, it was proof. Proof that grace wins where pride fails, that inclusion disarms exclusion, and that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, building better, and never stooping to the level of those who try to tear you down. And as dusk settled over Elderberry Lane, porch lights flickered on, not out of fear, but warmth, and for the first time in a long time, the neighborhood felt like home to everyone.